So, good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Dominique Broeglin. I'm working for Microsoft. And I hope for this last session of the day, we'll do something a little bit more funny. So don't worry, we won't be playing Minecraft. We will do a little bit of Java, but we also will place it into a more fun context, right? It's quite packed, and usually take a little bit more time. So sorry if I go a little bit fast on the end on some of the part. Still, feel free if you have any question to ask them. This can be an interactive session. There is a lot of coding, so I can adjust. I can show you some things if you are interested, etc. Feel free to just raise your hand and ask me. So in terms of contents, the intro will go very, very fast, and we will talk a little bit about generative AI foundations, how we do content generations, specifically then with the LangChain4J framework, and how we integrate that in Minecraft, talk a little bit about the Minecraft assistant, and also about testing, which is a big subject in building AI applications nowadays. It's probably one of the biggest hurdles I see my customers grappling with, and some things that we need to talk about. So maybe before we start, a quick survey. So I guess, who knows about Gen AI? This was an easy one, right? Who already played with some application just for fun, to discover, etc., building some application with Python, Java, whatever? OK. And who has already an application in production? OK, there is one hand, very shy hand on top. OK, that's about what I usually get. The idea here is to give you some pointers, some information about how you do build an application like that. So for those who didn't try it yet, you should have in the repository, I will share at the end, enough information to go there, try it, play with it, etc. in Java. And for those who go in production, I hope I can give you a few hints about what works and what doesn't work in production. So very quickly about me, so I'm what we call a global black belt at Microsoft, meaning that I'm really focusing on one topic only, which is AI. Very early in my career, I've been doing research in AI, but then for 25 years plus, I was basically a software engineer and an architect. And it's more in that role that I'm talking to you today. We won't be diving deep into models, deep learning, things like that. It's more about how, as a software engineer, can I use generative AI, and how can I leverage it in my applications, right? I've been working for small, big companies, so I know a little bit all of those contexts. Mostly Linux, Java, Ruby on Rails, or really developer. And I really love to tinker with all those hardware, software things. And so for me, Gen AI, it's kind of like I live again, right? It's like a beginning of my career when you look at those magical stuff that you can build. And I mean, after 20, 25 years, it gets a little bit boring, right? Java, building business applications. And then comes on Gen AI, and I mean, that's really fun. So let's see if I can communicate my enthusiasm to you before we go all for the apéro. So Gen AI, it's well, a new frontier. Let's say a new set of tools that we have. And well, a whole new set of issues also about how we build an application. So it's both super easy, right? Because most of what we get in Gen AI are APIs that we can call, OpenAI being one of the most well-known, right? But many other players have come also to produce some APIs. At first, it was like all about, yeah, I can chat, have a text conversation, but nowadays you can generate images, you can generate videos, you can analyze videos or images, you can do many, many things. Common part of it is that you don't need to be a data scientist, or machine learning expert to do that, right? As a developer, I now have access to a tool, a box, a black box, if I want to look at it, that I can use in my applications. So it was very, very interesting, but also comes with new problems, right? New hurdles. How do I do that? And that's where using a framework like LangChain4J is really useful. Very quickly, I mean, I will not bore you with Gen AI. I think everyone has been exposed, etc. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them after the talk. Feel free to come on ask them. But basically, what can I do with Gen AI, right? We have been doing, as software engineers, automation for like the last 50, 60, 70 years, depending on how we want to look at it. But what can we do with AI right now that we couldn't do before? Well, basically, before, as a software engineer, I had to define everything that was happening in my computer, right? Basically, if this, then do that, if this, then do that, etc., etc. This is very time-consuming. It takes a lot of time to build those programs, to debug them, to test them, to make sure that they have the right performance, like my predecessor was describing with Micronaut. What changed now is that some of those actions I can basically delegate to a tool. On this tool, I can actually program, with air quotes, in English, French, German, whatever language I want to use, and this tool will understand. So the barrier of building those automation is going so far down that I could actually build some automation just for a one-off task, right? If I have a task that would take, I don't know, half an hour for me to do, and I can actually explain to a large language model or to an AI app how to do it in 5 minutes, well, I save 25 minutes of my time. And that's a level of speed that we can get to. It's not all rosy, right? Not everything is nice. The problem that we have when we do that is that no, we have a level of understanding that is similar to humans, and I'm really insisting on the similarity, right? We are not at human level intelligence, we are not at general intelligence, we are at some things, some tasks can be done at a level of quality, accuracy, precision that is similar to a human, but with limitations. And as software developers, that's a limitation that we need to be careful about when we build our applications. So, just quickly, a little, let's say, perspective on where we are right now. There has been a lot of AI excitement, etc. There is still a lot of excitement in AI. We are slowly maturing with my customers. When day in, day out, when I work with them, there is first understanding, then a lot of excitement, then we start building applications, and we realize some of the limitations I was just talking about. We are right now in the maturity phase, right? And the idea is that soon we should be able to be more ready, more AI ready, more, let's say, knowledgeable, more mature about the way we build our application. And to do that, well, basically, like everything else in software, what we need is a new level of abstraction. And a framework, a library, a tool is basically what will help us do that, right? 20 plus years ago, when we were building web applications, we were doing that in C, analyzing strings, etc., etc. Right now, the previous talk was talking about a framework that helps you build a web application in like a matter of minutes, and that is very, very efficient. The difference in between is 25 years and a lot of abstraction and learning, and compiling all of this learning into libraries. So, content generation with LangChain4J. So maybe quickly, what is LangChain4J? So it's a framework. If you have been playing with AI, you probably already know LangChain, which has a version in Python and JavaScript. LangChain4J is a port re-implementation in full Java to basically try to cover the same, to have the same easiness, same simplicity that we have with LangChain in the Java world also. It's fully open source. It's not a product that I'm selling to you, etc. It's just a product that is out there. There are a few alternatives also. Spring AI is doing something similar within the Spring project. There are some other less known libraries. We have one at Microsoft, Semantic Kernel also. This one is kind of the most popular in the Java world, and that's why I'm using it right now. In a nutshell, maybe not a nutshell, but what do we cover in LangChain4J, right? So we have a lot of things that we are maybe not obvious when I start thinking about what I can do with OpenAI, right? OpenAI, basically, I have an API. I call the API, giving it a bit of text, and I get some text in return, or I get an image if I'm generating an image, etc. But then when I want to build a real application on top of it, something like ChatGPT or integrating those capabilities into my business applications, etc., I need a little bit more. So for instance, maybe I don't want to use OpenAI, right? That's very legitimate. Maybe I want to use another model, more efficient, or I want to use a local model, etc. So what happens then? Okay, I have to change the way I call the API. So one thing that LangChain4J is doing is basically abstracting all of those things away for me. It has like 15 plus, and I mean, they are adding new ones every month, right? So LLM providers, 20 plus embedding stores. We will get to what an embedding store is a little bit later. Embedding models, image generation models, etc., etc. So the list is growing every month. And what's interesting for you is that as a developer, if you want to switch from one model to the other, it's maybe not completely transparent, but it's usually just I change a couple of lines of code, and I can actually use a different model. Another model online in the cloud, or another model on my laptop. I will give you an example of that later. So this is basically the landscape of generative AI. There is a lot of stuff. And I want to try it, and I don't want to have to make a choice now that will bind me for the next 5 years. So having a nice abstraction of all those things is interesting, saves me a lot of time, saves me if I make a mistake and I choose the wrong model, well, it's a no-brainer to change after one. Then features that I need also to build my application, right? If I want to manage documents, I need to load them. If I want to store what the user has been exchanging with me, I need some history management. If I want to extract information, structured information from my documents or from some other source of information, I need a structured output from my model. All of those things, well, you can do them through the API, but it's better if you have just a nice library that does it for you. Testing and evaluation is really important. Observability. Once I run this application at scale and I have a few 100,000 million users using it, I need to be able to understand what's happening in there. Do I have performance issues? Do I have correctness issues, etc., etc. You have also an integration with Spring Boot Quarkus, right? The most current framework. Sorry for my predecessor. There is no Micronaut integration that I know of as of yet, but some are coming. You can also interact with the platforms a little bit easier, because maybe it's not obvious for you how do I run a model on my laptop, right? This is maybe not obvious if you are not doing machine learning. There are a few ways to do that, and one that I like a lot, it's not necessarily the most efficient, but I really like it when you just want to play with it, to test it, is JLamma, where basically I'm just adding a new dependency to my project. I'm telling it, oh, here is the model that I want to test, and it will download the model for me, run it in my Java program, and do everything for me without me having to interact too much. And then, last thing that is interesting with LangChain, I have a very high level of abstraction, where I'm basically thinking of my application as an AI service, where I do inference, I do searches, etc., etc., but I leave it to him. Or I can go one level deeper and really look at the nitty-gritty things that happen with every one of those APIs that I have been mentioning. So that's LangChain, right? So it's a lot. It's probably the longest slide I have. But that's the beauty of it, right? They did all of this work for me, so now when I try to build an application, it's pretty easy for me to do that. So let's start with something pretty simple, right? I want to generate some content. So I want to give some description, and I want a content in return. So when I want to do that, we'll switch to the code now. Can you, yeah. So I adjusted the size of the font. Can everyone see the text? All good? Okay, perfect. So this is a very simple project that I generated. It's basically empty Java project where I just added a few dependencies, right? For me, it's as easy as adding LangChain for Java dependencies, and I'm adding some dependencies for the various models I'm using. I was mentioning JLama, I'm adding those, etc. And a little bit of identity management so that I can connect to the various systems. But that's it, right? A new project, I added a few dependencies, and now I can have a look at how I would do this code. So as a first example, right, my diagram was about I want to generate some content. So how do I do that? Well, that's it. It's basically those few lines of code are what are required for me to do it. You will see this pattern a lot, so I will detail every line now, but then when we look at some things more complicated, I won't go back. But basically, every time what you will see is I'm calling an API somehow. As I was saying before, doing Gen AI in a software project today is basically calling some form of API, some form of black box. And here is basically where I can find this black box. Then I'm adding some credentials so that I'm authorized to connect to this black box. And here specifically, I'm saying, OK, I'm using a deployment name. This deployment name is what model specifically do I want to talk to. In this case, it will be GPT-4o, but it's irrelevant to it. You can use whatever model works for you. A little bit of logging, and basically I build this object model. And then I can go here and say, OK, with my model, I want to chat, and I'm saying, OK, hello, who are you? Right? So if I know. Here we go. So a little bit of time for compilation, and then it fails. Of course it fails. Why? Ah. Yeah, let's make it simple. And here we go. So my question was pretty simple. I asked it, OK, hello, who are you? Right? And say, oh, I'm an AI language model created by OpenAI, here to assist, etc. So that's it. I'm sending some text. I'm getting an answer back. We will do some more complicated things, but it's as simple as that. Now, if I were to say, oh, I need a more complex task, like I need to summarize a set of emails, etc. Well, my task as a developer is pretty simple. I collect the data that I need, I put it in a prompt, I call this API, and I ask it, OK, please summarize this content or extract this information for me, and it would extract this information and send it back to me. So here, this model is pretty great. Depends how you look at it. It's a little bit slow to call it because, OK, I'm calling it through the network, and then there is also quite a few GPUs involved that need to do the calculation. So some people find it a little bit slow. They prefer to run things locally because it's more, let's say, sometimes it's more efficient for them in terms of how they develop. So a nice way of doing that is, as I was saying before, to use JLama. So here the code is very similar. The difference is that I don't have a URL that I'm calling or an authentication for this URL, because basically what I will ask LangChain4J to do for me is, please download this model that's available in Hugging Faces, which is a repository for models. Download it, install it, and then run it. Right? So if I go now with JLama, I'm running this program, a bit of compilation. I don't download it here right now. I downloaded it before because it's quite big and the network is not that fast. But it takes a little bit of time in this scenario because I didn't use any GPU, so that you get an idea of how long it takes in running it on CPU. If I had run it on a GPU, mostly instantaneous. I don't see a difference. So when I want to develop locally, maybe I don't want to pay for the remote model, or maybe it takes too long for me, or maybe my IT people didn't give me access to it. So I can start developing with a simpler, smaller model that I run on my laptop, and that will not cost me anything. The drawback, however, is that, well, a little bit, it's not as good as the other one. And the other one was answering pretty clearly. This one was like, oh, I am a robot. Not really, right? I'm here to help you with your daily tasks and responsibilities. Well, it's being a little bit more creative than what I would like it to do. So it's always kind of a compromise, right? The best models, they run mostly in the cloud, and they are proprietary. You have a lot of open source models coming up now, but they are not always of the same level of quality. And if you want a good quality on your laptop, you will probably have to get a very nifty GPU, because a big model with good quality, you usually need to, a few billions parameters. I don't want to go too much into the technical details, but basically, the more memory you have on your GPU, the bigger the models you can run. And so that might be a compromise that you need to make depending on what you do. Sometimes it's easier to just go with an online model. Sometimes it's easier if you have a pretty good GPU on your laptop to do it locally, and it's a choice. The interesting part with LangChain is that basically my code here, where I call this model, is exactly the same, right? Every model that I call is always the same. I generate, I give it some message, and I get a message back. I just have a few lines to set things up, and I can do that differently in my test environment, in my development environment, in my production environment, etc., etc. So we are generating text, that's nice. But as I was saying before, I can also generate images. So again, same scenario as before. This is an online model. It's DALL-E 3 running in Azure. And I'm asking it here, I'm being a little bit more creative than just how are you. It's like, okay, show me a fun Minecraft NPC. Right, so let's go for it. It will take a few seconds, so I'm running it right now. So here, very simple text. I tell it what I want, and DALL-E is doing the generation for me. And I should get back, after a few seconds, a URL where I can go and look at the image it generated. Nice, right? Generated a Minecraft NPC with a cup of coffee. Every time I run this, however, I get a different image. Right? So that's part of what we need to be careful as developers. It's not a deterministic process to do that. I will get different content. It depends. Some models you can be more deterministic, but most of the time you get a different answer every time. It should be similar, but how similar will depend a lot on the model, on the way you have been asking to get your content. So this is really something to keep in mind when you generate those. Okay, back to this little architecture diagram. What I have been doing right now is just leveraging the capabilities of my model. It's a black box for me, right? I'm basically asking it, do something for me, and it's giving me something back. And I'm a little bit used to it, but the first time you do that, honestly, it's really like so. It seems like awesome. But then you start to ask it some questions like, what's the birth date of Victor Hugo, or some other questions, etc. And at that point, what you face is basically the data that has been used for training this model, on how much it retained of that data, and how accurate it is in remembering this data, right? You can think about any of those big LLMs as basically a compression of whatever data they could find on the internet, and they train their model on. And it's like me, right? If you look me into a library for a few weeks, and I'm reading all of the books, etc., when I come out, I'm probably more knowledgeable generally about a lot of stuff, but I'm not perfect. I will not remember everything that I read in there. Same for an LLM. So we have this problem with an LLM that if I ask no specific questions, I can get bad answers. I will not spend too much time talking about hallucinations, but hallucinations is basically also, it's a kind of a bug or feature situation, an hallucination, right? Because I'm basically asking something to my model, and sometimes I want it to be creative, so it's meant to be creative, to being able to generate a piece of text for me. But sometimes I want it to be like ultra precise and give me the perfect answer. So this is a bit difficult to build into the same system, right? And most of what we call hallucination when it starts to answer, oh, Victor Hugo is I don't know, is a Roman emperor that lived into the 1st century, whatever. This is usually this creative part taking over because it doesn't have good factual data to answer my question. So the way I would do that is to give it access to a perfect, as perfect as I can, knowledge base, right? Basically, what it's lacking is factual information, right? And I don't want it to answer from memory. So if I go back to my metaphor from before, me being in the library, you ask me what's the birth date of Victor Hugo, maybe I don't remember. Or maybe I can invent something, I think it's somewhere in 19, whatever, okay. Oops, wrong century. So what do I do as a, well, someone from the last millennia, because right now I would just go for Google, right? But if I were in a library, I remember somehow that, yeah, at some point I read something about Victor Hugo. I have this index card. I can go search, find the book, which is a biography of Victor Hugo, find in this book the part that says me, oh, Victor Hugo was born at that date, and come back to you and give you this answer, right? Victor Hugo was born at that date, and no, it's based on factual information that I found. So basically, this term that we use that is called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, is my system doing about the same stuff. I have some database, some information store. It's not really important what it looks like, how it is, etc. You can make it work with anything that contains factual data. I have a way for my application, so it's not the model. Let's be very clear about that, right? The model is just a black box. It's stateless. It gets requests, gives me answers. It's not it doing this, it's my application doing it. So that's something that I need to build as a developer, and that LangChain4J will help me do. And what I'm doing is go do a search for some information. Then with this information that I retrieved from my store of factual data, I'm constructing an answer that I'm sending back to the user. To do that, I basically digest all of this information. And it is a process called chunking. I calculate my embeddings, send them in a semantic store, whatever that is. And then when I get a request, I'm first doing a query to my semantic store, then feeding the results of this query to my LLM, and then generating my content. So I think I need to accelerate a little bit if we want to cover everything. So to give you an example, now I have two phases, right? I need to first index my data, and then do my retrieval. So I will go with the retrieval first, with an example where I'm basically doing the same as before. And my question is Minecraft natively available on PS5? Okay, fine. Let's find out what OpenAI is telling me. So it's pretty honest, hopefully, in the sense that it will tell me that as of my last update in October 2023, which is the last time it was updated, the last time it got access to fresh information, Minecraft was not natively available on PS5, right? Okay, fine. So pretty good answer, but not, I don't know if it's available right now. So I can go to a page like this one. No, not this one, this one. Okay, which is basically the news from Minecraft, and I can extract this information, as I was saying before, and index it. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to this particular page, but of course, if you were to build a real application, either you would use a search engine, a web-scale search engine, or you will be indexing your own data and do exactly the same. So my indexer is pretty simple. Again, LangChain4J does most of it for me. I need an embedding store. So this is a complicated word to say basically a store where I will index all of this information. I'm deleting it and recreating it just for this demo. And then I'm using an embedding model. So this is the tricky part, let's say. What's an embedding model? Well, we are all used to search engines where I give a keyword and I get back documents would contain the same keywords. But maybe for the sake of time, who knows what an embedding is? Okay, yeah, so it's better I explain it a little bit. So an embedding is basically a projection in, let's say, a numerical space of semantics of a bit of text, let's say. So in a very simple way of thinking about it is, you know, when I talk to my girlfriend, I have like one color, red or pink. She knows about fuchsia, Bordeaux, etc., etc. Well, if you go to a color selector on your computer, you are basically selecting a color in a space of 3 dimensions, right? Red, blue, green. And you are choosing this particular color. I go for something that looks red, and I'm happy. Maybe my girlfriend will be a bit more precise, but the thing is that Bordeaux, pink, red, all those colors are pretty close in the space of RGB. So here we have like 3 dimensions. It's pretty easy to visualize that. What we do with embedding is like we have 1,500 dimensions. And what we do is whatever word or piece of document that we have, we will create a vector. And if 2 vectors are pointing in the same direction, I know that I have something that is semantically close. This is really interesting. We were not able to do that for a long time. The embedding model that came about the same time that generative AI gives us a capability of doing that. So now when I search for tomato or tomato sauce, I can be pretty accurate in terms of semantics. And I can get back the information that I want. So that's really interesting also when I want to do a multi-language search, etc., all of those things. As a developer, I don't really care, right? What I want to do is I have my data, I chunk it, meaning I cut it in small pieces, and I want to create embeddings for it and being able to search through those. Well, in LangChain4J, that's what I'm doing here. I call a model, text embedding ADA002, which is a model from OpenAI. So it's not a large language model. It's a model to generate embeddings, right? I'm sending it text. It sends me back a vector. And then I'm storing those vectors in a store that allows me to do a search the same way I just explained. And I ingest all of those. So if I go for it, indexer, I can run it. I'm cleaning it here and generating it again. This particular store is in Azure, so I can go here, this simple interface, and I can maybe have a quick look to double check if something has been generated. Hopefully it has. Yeah, looks like it. Okay, I have Minecraft in there, I have PS5, correct? Yes, okay, so things look good. So now if I go back to my RAG application, where before I was just talking to the model, I am now talking to something a little bit more complex, which I called an assistant, right? So an assistant, I am now bringing together all those little components that I was mentioning. I have a model, of course, like before, the language model, but I also have an embedding store. And I'm saying to my assistant, okay, here, well, I'm saying LangChain4J is doing that for me. Here is what I want to use as a store for my facts. And I want to query them with this embedding model. So by using this particular way of projecting my text into those vectors, right? So when I'm doing a query, now, if I go back here, before going on asking the LLM to answer my question, I'm first doing an embedding of my question, sending it to the store and asking, okay, what do you have that is similar semantically to what I just gave you? It gives me back a few answers. I'm compiling this answer and I'm giving them to my LLM to get my answer back. On here, hopefully. Did I comment the right part? Yes. So if I'm executing hello rag again, this time I should get a slightly different answer, hopefully. And here we go, right? This time it's not talking about, yeah, my knowledge dates back to October, etc. It says, yes, Minecraft is natively available on PS5. This version is optimized for PS5, powerful hardware, etc., etc. And it can do that, and it can be authoritative about it because it got that as a fact from the store, the embedding store that I added. So this is a very simple, very small example to showcase a little bit what I can do. But if I had like 1 million documents in my embedding store, it would be exactly the same. Right? I need a good embedding store for this to be fast and efficient, but I would do exactly the same, and I would not need many more lines of code to do that. So that's the beauty of what LangChain is doing for me. It's abstracting away all of those things that I need to build an application. Any question at this point? Maybe something that was really unclear and that you would like me to click on? Okay. So, now in Minecraft. So who is a Java developer here? Okay, so about 1/3. So I will go a little bit fast. So who knows Minecraft? Yeah, fully. Okay, so Minecraft, there are several versions, but there is one that is really, really popular, which is the original one, which is built on Java. On Java is nice somehow in the sense that you can look into the application and you can actually decompile it and well, play with it, right? And a lot of people did that very early in Minecraft. And a lot of the interest in Minecraft is actually not just Minecraft and what you can do in Minecraft itself, but all of these those communities that have been built around mods. And mods is what? It's a modification of Minecraft. So basically, you are adding new features, custom content, custom features to Minecraft. And there is a whole ecosystem. So if you want to play a little bit, to do Java while playing at the same time, it's an interesting way to learn about Java and about Minecraft. And you have all of those platforms that give you the possibility to basically create your own code and integrate it into Minecraft. So the way to think about it is that you have here at the bottom standard Minecraft code, right? Basically, it's a Minecraft application that you download from Mojang and that you run on your laptop. Then you are installing some modding framework. You have quite a few nowadays. And this modding framework will allow you to then integrate into Minecraft your own code. So it's really let's say, it's really a nifty way of doing it, but it allows me to just write a little bit of code and integrate this code in Minecraft, and then when I restart my application, I basically have a Minecraft modified with my own code. So a lot of people are doing that, and you have like whole servers, whole experiences of Minecraft running out there that are, I mean, sometimes it feels like there is more modifications than actual initial code from Minecraft. They go really, really far with it. Oops. Why am I going to testing right now? Ah, I was just being too fast. Okay, sorry. So how do I do that? This is another project, so same editor, but a different project, that is built on top of Minecraft plus a modding framework. And in there, I have, and its code is a little bit more involved, but we will see that we have similar things to what we were building before. So I go here, and I have this mode class where I am initializing a lot of things. So most of the time, this is pre-generated by your framework. And in this case, I will give you the URL to this particular project afterwards. There is a lot of initialization going on. The only thing that I wanted to do is, because I'm a noob, that's what my son calls me, if not something else, when I'm playing Minecraft, I always have to ask some questions. So I would like to have a simple way, while I'm in Minecraft, to ask questions through the chat, right? And know that we have seen everything I built before with LangChain4J. I can actually do that pretty nifty. So I just need to bring it into my application. So the way I'm doing that is by adding a command. So adding a command happens here, AI command. So the line I added here is just this one, and then we will go away from this very complex code. But basically, I'm adding a class containing some code, and I'm setting up what we call in Minecraft a command, which allows me to run something within the game through the chat. So my AI command, I have some setup code that you can look at if you want to. It's basically just how I set up this command so that I can now run it from Minecraft. And then when the command is executed, it's basically calling this function, which is answer question. And if you look at it closely, you will see that it's pretty similar to what we saw before, right? I'm collecting some environment variables. I'm doing a little bit of testing just so that I don't have like big exceptions running in there. And then on my model, I'm saying, okay, provide a short answer, maximum 250 characters, to the following question. And the question is what's coming from the user. So if I run it now, very quickly, because my time is running short. So right now, it's compiling basically nothing because everything was already compiled. It's doing some modification on the Minecraft client, and it's running my Minecraft client. Here we go. So I created a small world, and I will just go here and do a very, very short demo. When I'm connecting to the world, I have no Minecraft running, but I have also a slight modification. So to access the chat, I can type T, and I have some commands that I can use, right? Like attribute, boss bar, whatever. I have now a new command called AI, to which I can give a small question. And let's go like, tell me a Minecraft joke. And we see that behind the scenes some stuff is happening. We call it on, okay, why don't Minecraft players ever get lost? Because they always follow their blocky compass. Minecraft joke, as I was saying, right? Basically, was generated. So if I had more time today in general, what I could do is compile a few tutorials of Minecraft, some explanation, etc., index them like we did before with Minecraft news page, and I could be here and ask like a question like, how do I cook a chicken in Minecraft? And get my answer. And so this is a tremendous help for me when I'm playing Minecraft because I have no clue what I'm doing anyway, right? And so here I get my explanation, and here we go. So we'll stop here because I have like 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and I just wanted to touch on one topic that is really, really important, but is often kind of left to the end. I mean, as software engineers, right, who needs testing, right? Testing is like doubting, and doubting is not something that we want to do. Well, maybe it worked for a long time with software in general, maybe not, depends on how you look at it, but maybe we could get away with it. Right now, we have one big problem with testing, right? We have in our system a component that I said earlier is non-deterministic. The consequences of this being non-deterministic, it will behave in some weird ways that I cannot really predict beforehand, right? If I do a computation, like just a calculation, I get a result back, I always get the same result, or there is a bug. Well, my models, they can be creative. Sometimes I ask them to be creative even, right? And they will give me different answers. So right now, if I want to use this application for something else than just playing Minecraft or playing at something, I need to test it in a way. So a typical metric that we were using before is what we call code coverage. Right? Code coverage is how much of my code did I cover with tests, with automated tests that I'm running. And if I cover most of my code, I can be fairly certain that I'm fine. Well, with a model, I can't. So what I need to do is basically build some testing. Let me go very fast, right? This is something that in the machine learning world they call evaluation, not testing. Why? Because in their view of the world, they were building models, and they know that a model is not like black and white. It works, it doesn't work. It works to some extent, so I'm evaluating it. And evaluating means that I'm creating a data set. And here we are not talking about like 3, 4, 5 tests for my data. I'm talking about a few thousand tests. Luckily, I have Gen AI now that helps me generate those tests, so that's interesting. And I'm running those tests to evaluate my model. But then I have a problem, right? If I'm asking a question like, how do I cook a chicken in Minecraft? I'm expecting a certain answer, but I will always get a different answer. The wording will be different. The content should be the same, right? The semantics, the meaning of that should be the same, but it will be different. So how do I do a test? I cannot do like, I expect this particular string to come out of my system. What I expect is a similar meaning. So I can actually use generative AI to implement a metric on top of my answer, which is, okay, my metric, how close is the answer from the system to what I was expecting? And then I set up a threshold, and I know that if I was close or not to what I was expecting. And I will do that with a few thousand questions, different kind of metrics, to double check that my application is working. Right? This is a really important part. I had to rush to the end. I'm already a lot over time, but I just wanted to mention that. This is something that we need to cover, that LangChain4J is not covering well yet, but we are getting there. We are working on it. And I leave you just with this link. If you want to go to this particular repository, it's not from me. Since the first time I did this presentation, someone actually built something that is working, and you can actually just test it. It's really fun to use. And I prefer to leave you with this code than mine. And finally, I'm done. Thank you very much for staying with me during this last session. If you have any questions or anything, you can reach out either right now or to my GitHub handle that you had before. Basically, Dominique Broeglin on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. I'm always very, very happy to discuss anything related to AI and generative AI in general.